Hare Krishna, Panchakalpataro Vyascha, Kripa Sindhubhe Vacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Today, August 12, 2020, we are celebrating the most auspicious occasion of Vrindavan or Vraj, known as Nanda-Utsav, and also very, very special day. Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace, Abhay Charana Ravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada appeared on this day. So we will dedicate today's program at the lotus feet of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. First, I will continue where I left off yesterday in regards to the Janmashtami celebration, and today being Nanda-Utsav, we will, from the Srimad Bhagavatam, a wonderful description is given in the chapter number 4 and 5 of the 10th canto of Nanda-Utsav. Prior to that, we always chant on this day, Nanda Grihe Ananda Bhayo Jai Kanaiya Lal Ki, Hati Goda Pal Ki, Jai Kanaiya Lal Ki, Nanda Grihe Ananda Bhayo Jai Kanaiya Lal Ki, Hati Goda Pal Ki, Jai Kanaiya Lal Ki. Yesterday I mentioned that I will explain a very deeper meaning of Nanda Grihe Ananda Bhayo Jai Kanaiya Lal Ki. The meaning as we understand it in a more simple way is Nanda Grihe, in the home of Nanda Maharaj, Ananda Bhayo, everybody was very, very joyful. When next day after Krishna Janam, it was declared that a male child was born to Yashoda, and according to the Vedic custom, Nanda Maharaj was very happy. He called for the learned astrologers, Brahmins, Gargamuni especially, to perform the birth ceremony. And after the birth of the child, the astrologers calculate the moment of the birth and make a horoscope of the child's future. It is so true. Even in India, when a child is born, even today, back then they always used to do it. It's called Janmakshar or the Kundali chart, to see the future of the child. Because we have to understand, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai never considered Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They considered him as his own child. And whatever ordinary parents, how they loved the child, they did all the same things for Krishna. The whole of Gokul came to know about the appearance of this beautiful baby boy to Yashoda. Everybody was very happy. Nanda Grihe Ananda Bhayo. Gokul is Nanda Maharaj was the king of Gokul. So the entire Gokul or the kingdom of Gokul was his house. So everybody in Gokul was extremely happy. Nanda Grihe Ananda Bhayo Jai Kanaiya Lal Ki. All glories to Kana, the one, all glories. That's the simple meaning. And the other meaning of Nanda Grihe Ananda Bhayo means that Anand or bliss personified took birth in the house of Nanda Maharaj. Amazing indeed, eh? Ishwara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. He is Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. He is the Krishna is the embodiment of eternity, all cognizance or knowledge, and bliss. So bliss personified appeared in the house of Nanda Maharaj, appeared in Gokul. What kind of austerities did Nanda Baba and Mother Yashoda or the Vrajvasis or the Gokulvasis performed that bliss personified appeared in their home in Gokul. Nanda Grihe Ananda Bhayo Jai Kanhaiya Lal Ki. And glories to that Krishna. So before the birth ceremony, the family members take bath, cleanse themselves, and decorate themselves with ornaments and nice garments. Then they come before the child. This is when the Brahmins and Gargamuni were called to perform the ceremony. And they all dressed very opulently and beautifully. And all the Brahmins were assembled there. And they chanted auspicious mantras according to the rituals which the astrologers performed. All the Devi Devtas or the demigods are also worshipped on this occasion, as well as the Pitrus or the forefathers of the family. Nanda Maharaj distributed the Brahmins 200,000 cows. Amazing. Not only cows in charity, but also hills of grain decorated with ornaments and golden bordered cloth. In the material world, Prabhupada mentions that when we possess riches and wealth, we obtain it in many, many different ways. And most of the time it could be impure by nature. Sometimes when we are, let's say, running a business, we have to lie. When the customer walks in, oh, this is the best, for you only I have saved it. And believe me or not, I'm not making even 1 rupee or $1 on this. So, and those are very, very minute lies, but there are so many other manipulations one has to make even when working just to please the boss. Sometimes you have to even go with the nonsense at the workplace. So even the most honest person sometimes has to compromise. So according to the Vedic injunction, one should purify such wealth by giving cows and gold in charity to the Brahman. So in other words, giving in charity. But obviously it doesn't mean that we should give charity to anybody. Krishna has warned in the Bhagavad Gita. Charity also we should see and give. We should see the patra. Because Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita that there is charity in the mode of goodness or in the satogun, charity in the mode of rajogun, in the mode of passion, and charity in the mode of ignorance or in the mode of tamogun. So if we see and if we know that a particular person is going to make complete misuse of Lakshmi Devi, and if we are giving those persons in charity, then that is considered bad, because we are actually aiding them in committing sinful activities. We are becoming instrumental. So we have to make sure that our charity also, to the best of our knowledge, it is impossible to know, but we have to try and use and discern when we do give charity. But obviously in those days it was very pure, and that is the Vedic injunction. That's how you purify whatever you earn. Because even knowingly or unknowingly, if we make some sinful acts while we are making money, then we will have to incur heavy karmic reactions. And to kind of nullify that, uh, it is good to give to the right, nice Brahmins, Vaishnavas. Charity should be given. So we have to therefore purify that. By that also, by charity, we also purify the duration of our lives, our possession of wealth, and ourselves. We can purify our duration of life by taking a daily bath, like our nitya karmas, cleansing the body inside and outside, accepting the 10 kinds of purificatory processes by austerities, tapasya, by worship of the Lord, by archana, by distribution of charity, dan. We can purify the possession of wealth. We can purify ourselves by studying the Vedas internally or the Shastra in order to understand the absolute truth, Satyam Param Dhimahi, and achieve Atma Sakshatkar or self-realization. It is therefore stated in the Vedic literature that by birth everyone is born a Shudra. Janmana jayate Shudra sanskarat bhavati dvija. By birth everybody is ignorant. Shudra means, if we translate that word from Sanskrit to English, it means somebody who is in the mode of ignorance or who is ignorant. So by birth we are all ignorant. Doesn't matter in which family we take birth. We have to learn the entire process again, including the material subjects of learning the alphabets, learning the numbers, and even we have to get our Janai Sanskar, which is known as the Upavita, Pavitra Sanskar, so that we become Dvija. Dvi means twice and Ja means Janma. So the first Janma takes from the mother's womb, when we are born from our birth-giving mother. But the second Janma takes when the Brahmin or the Gurudev initiates us, gives us Brahma Sambandh, gives us Diksha, Sanskarat Bhavati Dvija. We become twice born. So like this, we become Vipra. Vipra means with Brahmanical in qualification. We qualify ourselves to become Brahmins, which is the preliminary qualification of a Brahmin, is Brahman Janati iti Brahman. One who knows the supreme Brahman, Sri Krishna, one who knows Sarva Karana Karana, the cause of cause, is the real Brahman. And then one perfectly understands this absolute truth, Satyam Param Dhimahi. That Brahman further reaches and becomes a Vaishnava. Vaishnava is not a Jat. Vaishnavera Jati Buddhi. It is the door. One who thinks that Vaishnava is some kind of a Jat, like Brahman, Shudra, Kshatriya. No, it's not a Jat. People call them as Jat, but that is not a Jati. It is something that is beyond the four Jat of Brahman, Kshatriya, Shudra, and Shudra, Kshatriya, Brahman, and Vaishya. So these are the Vaishnava technically is beyond these four. The Janmana Jayati Shudra Sanskarat Bhavati Dvija. Even a Shudra can become a Vaishnava. Like Haridas Thakur, he was born of a Muslim family. And even if we go to Gokul, I don't know how many of you have taken darshan. very, very special place in Gokul, is the Samadhi of Ras Khan. Ras Khan was a Muslim, and he became a topmost Vaishnava after he took initiation from Gosaiji, from Vittalnathji, the son of Sri Vallabhacharya. So there are so many instances like that, that Haridas Thakur, a Muslim by birth, because he took to the proper process of chanting the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself gave him the title of Namacharya. Haridas Thakur used to chant about 18-19 hours a day of the Mahamantra. And he was so purified by that process of chanting that anybody who came in touch with him would get purified. Once upon a time, the envious Brahmins, the orthodox Brahmins, or they are called Smarta Brahmins, those who do not have the qualifications of a Brahmin, but they are boasting and calling themselves Brahmins just because they were born to Brahmin fathers and mothers or to a Brahmin family. So they became so envious of Haridas Thakur, saying that this is a Yavan, a Malech, born in a Malech family, how he can be so much revered by everybody. So then the Brahmins, the Smarta Brahmins, they sent one prostitute to Haridas Thakur, and so that Haridas Thakur would fall for the prostitute's tactics. So when she arrived, she saw Haridas Thakur chanting the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. And she was trying to attract his attention, but he kept on chanting. He kept on chanting the holy names. And like that, she waited for several hours. He kept on waiting and waiting when this man will come to his senses so that she can attract him with her bodily features. And then what happened? After sitting there in the presence of Haridas Thakur for a few hours waiting, she started chanting the Mahamantra. And then she became a pure Vaishnavi, a prostitute. So anybody can become a Vaishnava. Many people criticize His Divine Guru Srila Prabhupada for initiating, giving Diksha to the non-Indians or to the foreigners, as they say in India. They like to use the word foreigners. They call them Yavans, they call them meat eaters, they call them Malechas. And they see them on the altar serving Radha Krishna. So those envious persons, they object. Srila Prabhupada followed the rules of the scriptures very strictly. In fact, his Gurudev, his Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada, he had perfectly, under the guidance of his Divine Father, Bhaktivedanta Thakur, had devised a plan to bring back Varnashram system. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasham. These 4 Varnas and ashrams I have formed for the upliftment of mankind, so that they can become Krishna conscious gradually. Just like a child is first admitted into the kindergarten and then the the first, second, third grade, and then they're going into middle school and then high school and then undergraduate college and then graduate college and then masters and PhD. It's a process. So even Krishna consciousness, or the science of self-realization, is a gradual process. Everybody has an opportunity. Just because somebody is born in ignorance, that doesn't mean that that person cannot be educated. Sanskarat bhavati tvija. Such persons, there are many such. Ras Khan, he was born to a Muslim family, and then later on, when he got the taste of Krishna consciousness under an able guru, Srila Gosaiji, Srila Vittalnathji, he became such a pure devotee that all the Vaishnavas visiting Gokul, and those were, even today, the pure Vaishnavas, they sing the songs that have been written by Ras Khan. They sing their Ras Khan's pada. So Janmana Jayate Shudra Sanskarat Bhavati Dvija. This is a very important principle. And Srila Prabhupada followed that very nicely. He did not do anything whimsically. It was according to Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. But those of poor fund of knowledge would easily criticize. After all, we are looking at the outer covering, whether it is a Shudra or a Brahman. The inside, it is the soul. The soul is pure. Just because of the covering, the person is acting in many different ways. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankar vimudatma karta aham iti manyate. Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita. Under the influence of Prakriti, under the influence of the modes of material nature, tamogun, rajogun and satogun, the person acts in a certain way. But as far as the soul is concerned, soul is ansha of Krishna. Again that shloka comes, Mamayamsha jiva bhutas jiva loka sanatana. So if Krishna's ansha in its original constitutional position is always pure. So just because under the guidance of a pure guru, even a person who is an ignorant or who has got Shudra-like qualities can be elevated to Brahmanical qualities, and then beyond Brahmanical qualities known as the Vaishnava qualities. Some other day when I get a chance, there was a very nice in Navadvip, a conversation. As a matter of fact, it was a scholarly debate between the Brahmins, who are great, the Brahmins and the Vaishnavas, and the great personality Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the divine guru of Srila Prabhupada, was invited to speak in that sabha, in that assembly. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada glorified the Brahmins using the different shastric slokas, and the Brahmins were elated. And most of the Brahmins in those assemblies were smarta Brahmins, by birth, but not by action. And then when it came to glorifying the Vaishnavas, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati used the same shastras along with different slokas and different explanations about the status of the Vaishnavas being the highest. And that was very, very upsetting to the same smarta Brahmins who were happy previously by hearing the glories of the Brahmins. And they were so much upset that they actually wanted to murder Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And then actually there was a big chaos, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disciples, senior godbrothers of Srila Prabhupada, said, Prabhupada, let's go from here, let's go. It is not worth wasting your time here. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada said, no, I'm not scared of them. He was of course known as Simha Guru. That was his very, very name of endearment. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada was known as Simha Guru. Simha means lion. Never scared of anything. He always spoke straight as it is. Rupanuga Viruddha Apasiddhanta Dvanta Harine. Anything that is opposite to the principles of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or the principles in Tattva of Rupa Goswami, Dvanta Harine, he would immediately defeat Harine in a very, very proper debate with all shastric examples and shastric evidence, not whimsically. So then he, because of the disciples actually had to drag him from that place, otherwise those smarta Brahmins would stone him to death or something. They almost wanted to kill him. So they started then running after Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. And then one of his disciples, he said, Maharaj, please change clothes right now in this corner. I will take the sannyas clothes and you wear my white clothes. And, please go away. We need you. You are a very dear servant of Radharani. And if we don't have you, what is going to happen? So convinced with that instant argument, he swapped clothes. And then this sannyasi dressed Grihastha disciples started running in another direction, and the other smarta Brahmins followed him. And then they found out that, and when they saw him, they started stoning him, pelting him, and he was very seriously hurt. But when they saw finally that it was not Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, then they let him go. So anyways, so when it comes to envy, people think that they are topmost Brahmins, this, that. and then, immediately their qualities are not. So that is the reason we have to be very careful who we give charity to. Uh, in the Krishna's birth ceremony, coming back to the Nanda-Utsav, all the assembled Brahmins began to chant different kinds of mantras to invoke good fortune for the child, because they all thought that he is, Nanda and Yashoda's beloved son. And like an ordinary son's, like an ordinary person's son, the different ceremonies were performed for the protection of the child. There are different kinds of chanting known as the Suta, the Magadha, Vandi, Virudavali, etc. Along with the chanting of the mantras and songs, different musical instruments like the bugles, the kettle drums sounded outside the house. On the occasion, these joyous vibrations, Nanda Grihe, Ananda Bhayo, Jai Kanaya Lal Ki, could be heard in all the pasturing grounds of Vraj, especially in Gokul. And within and outside the houses, there were varieties of artistic paintings done with rice pulp, like what we call as the uh, Rangoli. You all know that, right? In Diwali, they do that. They make the rangolis, and scented water was sprinkled everywhere, in not only inside the house, but even outside the house. Different kinds of patakas or flags and festoons and green leaves indicated it made it a very, very auspicious occasion, very auspicious moments, and very auspicious environment. The gates were made of green leaves and flowers, like in Dashera and Diwali, how we adorn our houses with either uh, those uh, banana trees, banana leaves, or mango leaves with marigold flowers, etc. And all the cows and the bulls and the calves were smeared with a mixture of oil and turmeric and painted with minerals like red oxide and yellow clay and manganese. And with that mixture, the Vrajvasis, the Gokulvasis, put it on their hands, and they put them on the cows' bodies, smearing their handprints. If you see, especially in any of the Vraj photos, uh, you will see the cows, the Surbi cows, all the cows, they have the panjas or the handprints of the Vrajvasis. If you look carefully, you will see them, and they look so beautiful and so auspicious. These cows were decorated with garlands of different peacock feathers and were covered with nice colored cloths and gold necklaces. That was the opulence. Huh? Namami Ishwaram Satchitananda Rupam Lasata Kundalam Gokule Brajaman. Satyavrat Muni has written this Damodar Ashtakam that is sung during the month of Kartik. And in the very first two lines, he says, Namami Ishwaram, I offer my humble obeisances to that Ishwar. Which one? There are many Ishwars. There is Narayanas, many, many types of Narayanas, many types of Vishnus. There is Lord Ramachandra, many, many different Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim Rupam. They are all Satchitanand Vigrahas, because they have the same potency as Krishna. Just like Brahma Samhita describes that one original lamp is there, but when that one original lamp lights up the other lamps also have the same quality. But there is one original lamp. That original lamp is Govinda, the son of Nanda Maharaj, or Yashoda Nandan, Nandanandan. But the quality is the same in all the other lamps. So all the different avatars of the Lord are also Satchitananda. So, but he is specifying Namami Ishwaram Satchitananda Rupam, the one Lasata Kundalam, one that baby Krishna, whose roop or his beauty is so beautiful that he's got beautiful earrings frolicking on his cheeks, touching it as Krishna is moving, in Gokul. How fortunate those earrings are that they are able to play with the lotus cheeks of Krishna. Lasata Kundalam, where in Gokule Brajamanam, one who is in full opulence in Gokul. That personality amongst all the personalities of Godhead, amongst all the different, I worship to that opulent personality who is in Gokul, and whose earrings are frolicking on his cheeks. So like that, he appreciates the beauty of Krishna. Not only that, he appreciates the beauty of his ornaments. Not only that, he appreciates the beauty of Gokul and he eulogizes Gokul. So this is what, so all of Gokul was very splendid and it was full of opulence. Chintamani prakar sadmasu kalpa vriksha lakshakriteshu surbhir abhir palayantam lakshmi sahasra shata sambrava sevyamanam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. This Gokul of Raj is Chintamani. It is not ordinary sand or rocks that are there on the ground. Chintamani, this full of different jewels and touchstones. Chintamani prakara sadmasu kalpa vriksha lakshatriteshu. And there are thousands and thousands, lakhs and lakhs of kalpa vrikshas, desire trees, where if anybody desires anything, those trees can immediately fulfill those desires. Not one tree, not two trees, lakshatriteshu, lakhs and lakhs, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of trees. That is Gokul. Lakshat surbhir abhir palayantam and Lakshmi sahasra shata sambrama sevyamanam. And this master of Gokul, Gokulesh, we come from, my grandmother had taken initiation in the Vallabh Sampradaya. And in the Vallabh Sampradaya, in especially those whose gurus who are the descendants of Sri Vallabhacharya, they have their Havelis or temples in Gokul. Of course, there used to be 25. Now there is only one. It's so sad that even nowadays, no full darshan is available. 10 minutes in the morning for a few minutes. And this is the unfortunate situation. But anyways, but all those persons there in Gokul, if you go on the streets, they will say, like in Vrindavan, they say Radhe Radhe, or in Govardhan, they say Radhe Radhe, or Barsana, they say Radhe Radhe. In Gokul, they say Jai Jai Sri Gokulesh. So this is the master of Gokul, one who controls Gokul with his love. That is why it's known as Gokul Esh. Esh means Ishwar, and Gokul means the town of Gokul. So Gokulesh. Gokul also means, it is just not geographically speaking just that one particular area. Gokul means a conglomeration or a group of Go. Go means gopis, gopas, and Go means cows. So where there, and then of course in Gokul, that's all you will find, because that's where Nanda Maharaj was a Vaishya by nature, and his main business was cow protection. So that is why that place is known as Gokul. So it is full of opulence. It is not ordinary. And nowadays, of course, we cannot see, but those who have eyes, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that even today, you can see the Chintamani, the touchstone, and all the different jewels in Vrindavan, and all the places of Raj, because we don't have the eyes, our consciousness is polluted. But to the pure devotees, they can still see that. Surbhir abhir palayantam, and Krishna is tending those cows with the Surbhi cows. Surbhi cows are very special. They give unlimited milk. Therefore, they are known as Surbhir abhir palayantam. Therefore, he is known as Gopal. Gopal means Go means cows and Pal means Palan. Palan means to take care, to protect. That is why he is known as one of the names of Krishna as Gopal. So Surbhir abhir palayantam means Gopal. And Lakshmi sahasra shata sambrama sevyamanam. And millions and millions of Lakshmis. Lakshmis are very opulent. But the gopis are the most opulent. Therefore, they are addressed as Lakshmis. So because sometimes somebody can argue and say, Lakshmis are in Vaikuntha. What have they got to do in Golok or in Vrindavan? Vrindavan are the simple cowherd girls, or the damsels who are simply tending the cows or milking the cows or making yogurt and butter, makhan, etc. But these gopis are the most opulent. And guess why they were called Lakshmi? They are called Lakshmi because they have Sri Krishna, Nanda-Nandan. And one who has Sri Krishna is the richest person in the entire creation. This is the explanation. The Rasikacharyas are so amazing, because sometimes certain contradictory words appear that have got no connection with a particular region or a pastime of Krishna. Lakshmi is concerned with Narayana and in Vaikuntha and Vishnu. And what is that got to do with Golok? Actually, Lakshmi ji cannot enter Vrindavan. He is still doing tapasya in Belwan. Out of the different forests of Vrindavan, she wants to come inside inside Vrindavan to see and taste that rasa that the gopis are tasting. But she is not allowed because she doesn't want to give up her opulence of Vaikuntha. He doesn't want that. And we had mentioned that in the Jagannath Rath Yatra Katha conversation during the Hera Panchami, how Srivas Acharya represented Lakshmi Devi, and Sarup Damodarji, who is Lalita Sakhi, represented Radharani and Krishna, and about the different pastimes that took place where the servants of Lakshmi beat up all the devotees, including Nandi Ghosh, the chariot of Lord Jagannath, outside the Gundicha Mandir. So, anyways, coming back. So the gopis are the most opulent. Even the opulence of Lakshmi in Vaikuntha has no comparison. Sarup Damodar Goswami at the end in that conversation tells everyone that not even a drop of the ocean of Vraj do the residents of Vaikuntha possess. So that was the final verdict, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so pleased to hear that when he heard that from Sarup Damodar Goswami. Anyways, so Gokul was extremely opulent at that time, and as soon as they heard that Mother Yashoda had given birth to a child, all the cowherd women, the gopis, they became overwhelmed with joy. Nanda Grihe Ananda Bhayo, Jai Kanaiya Lal Ki, Hatti Goda Pal Ki, Jai Kanaiya Lal Ki. They were overjoyed, and they also dressed themselves with various kinds of costly garments and ornaments and smeared scented cosmetics on their bodies. As the dust of the lotus flower, it is mentioned in the Bhagavatam that just as the lotus flower has got those pollen inside, and as the dust of the lotus flower exhibits exquisite beauty of the flower. When we see sometimes a beautiful flower, this beauty is even more enhanced because of the pollen that lies in the middle. And just like that, all the gopis or the cowherd women applied the dust of kumkum on their lotus-like faces and on their chest. These beautiful gopis took their different presentations like gifts, etc., and very soon reached the house of Nanda Maharaj to celebrate Nanda-Utsav. And they were so happy that Nanda Grihe Ananda Bhayo, Jai Kanaiya Lal Ki, Hatti Koda Pal Ki, Jai Kanaiya Lal Ki. The ears were decorated with pearl earrings, the necklaces were jewel lockets, the lips and eyes were different shades of ointments and lipsticks, and their hands with nice golden bangles as they were hastily passing over the stone road, and their flower garlands, which were decorating their bodies, fell to the ground because they were heavy, these motherly gopis with big hips, etc. And it appeared as if that the demigods or the denizens in the heavens had showered flowers on the streets of Gokul. This is Srimad Bhagavatam. Vyasdeva so beautifully described this in those Sanskrit shlokas. Just amazing. This is real Vaishnava poetry, where when you glorify not only Krishna, but you glorify Krishna's devotees, you glorify Krishna's devotees' ornaments, you glorify the streets of Gokul, you glorify the flowers that have been scattered. This is real poetry. And Krishna really loves that because when we eulogize Gokul, Gokul again means gopis, gopas, the cows. Krishna makes that devotee becomes very favorite of Krishna. Krishna likes to hear some of his praises or his kirti, but he likes to hear more of the kirti of his devotees, of his Gokul. Swaghoshan. That's why he says to Satyavratmani, Swaghoshan nimanjantam akyapayantam idriksha leelabhir ananda kunde. In this way, Krishna, by performing as he grows up, he performed very beautiful, sweet pastimes, and in this way, he drowned his whole family in Gokul. His whole family Swa Ghosh. Swa means his own, and Ghosh means the family. And Gokul is his Ghosh. Ghosh means the entire, because everybody is a family there. It's all the devotees are a family. Like we have nothing to do with our sometimes our own blood members, but when we are, like example, I can say that ISKCON is my spiritual family. Sometimes what the immense benefit that I've got by associating in ISKCON, I have never got that for probably millions and millions of births from uh, the, the families and friends that probably I had in the past and present. Of course, I was fortunate that also my grandmother was a very pure devotee, and by her mercy, something rubbed in, and that created more curiosity and uh, more taste to come into Krishna consciousness. So all glories to her also. So again, as I was mentioning, that they were all nicely decorated, and so in this way they all reached the house of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai, and they started talking to Krishna. Dear child, oh Lala. In Vraj they say Lala to little boys, and they say Lali to little girls. So oh Lala, Chira Jio, Rani Tero. Chirajiyo Gopal, ke Rani tero, Chirajiyo Gopal. They started saying, oh my dear child, oh Lala, may you live long, Chirajiyo Gopal, so that you can protect us. While they were blessing the child like this, in this way, they offered a mixture of turmeric, haldi, a powder mixed with oil and yogurt, dahi, with milk, dadi, doodh, and with water. So that's a very auspicious a mixture. And they sprinkled this mixture on the body of Sri Krishna, on that little child, but also on all the persons that were there, that were celebrating Nanda Griya Ananda Bhayo Jai Kanaya Lal Ki, Hatti Goda Pal Ki, Jai Kanaya Lal Ki. So they sprinkled this turmeric, oil, water, and milk mixture on everybody that was present. And like this, on this auspicious occasion, there were different bands of expert musicians. They played the different vadintras, the different musical instruments. And when the coward men, the gopas, saw these pastimes of these gopis, of the women, they became very joyful. Nanda Griya Nanda Bhayo Jai Kanaya Lal Ki, Hatti Goda Pal Ki, Jai Kanaya Lal Ki. And in response, they also began to throw yogurt. They started throwing milk. They started throwing makhan, clarified butter, all of that on each other's bodies, and that became a huge celebration in Gokul. Nanda Maharaj, seeing all this, was very happy, and to see the pastimes of the coward men and the coward ladies of Raj, the gopis and the gopas, and he became very liberal in giving charity to the different singers. He gave lots of charity dan who were assembled there. Some singers were reciting great verses from the Upanishads, from the Purans, from the Vedas, and some were glorifying family ancestors, the Pitrus, and some were singing very, very sweet songs. They all, with many, many learned Brahmins, they were all present, and Nand Maharaj, being satisfied on this occasion, gave them different kinds of garments, ornaments, and cows in charity. So this is how Nanda and Nanda-Utsav was celebrated throughout the day. Like this, the pastimes of Krishna had just begun. In the, how beautiful, Madhuradi Patera Kilam Madhuram. Krishna is the most beautiful, and his sweet pastimes are also beautiful. So after the birth, there are different pastimes happens. When Putna comes on the third day, the atrocities of Kansa increases by the different demoniac forces being sent to Gokul. Then the Putna is being killed just after a few days after he was born. Then there was the killing of the demon Trinavrata, and then Krishna shows the universal form to Mother Yashoda at Brahman Ghat when he grows up a little bit more and he starts eating mud. And then Mother Yashoda binds Krishna when he is so naughty. It binds him to a grinding mortar, Therefore, he's known as Damodar. And then there was the deliverance of the Yamala Arjuna trees, the trees that were cursed, the two sons of Kuber that were cursed by Naradji because of their shamelessness. They were naked, taking a bath with many apsaras in the heavenly planet in the Mandakini river. And when Naradji passed by, they did not have any shame and they kept on drinking their wine and having merry with the women. And to teach them proper etiquette, Naradji cursed them to become trees. Prabhupada used to say that when he used to walk in the morning, every morning he used to take a walk wherever he was, in whatever city. So sometimes when he was walking in some of the parks in the US and some of the Western countries, he used to see some of the ladies that were dressed barely wearing anything, mostly almost to the point of nudity. And Prabhupada was just simply exclaim, just see this. In their next lives, they will become trees. Because Prabhupada said in the 8,400,000 species of life, the trees, Jalaja Navalakshani Sthavaram Laksha Vipsati, there are 30 lakh varieties of plants and creatures in this 8,400,000 species of life. And if one wants to behave in such a way that they want to be naked, then Mother Nature, out of the 8,400,000 species of life, has made a special arrangement. Be naked for 1,000 years, become a tree, and you be naked, because that's what your propensity is. So then the Mother Nature rewards or punishes according to the propensities that we have in this present life. So, but Naradji, being a pure devotee, even his curse turns out to be amazing, because he is always looking for the benefit. Although he was punishing them, but the benefit is that these two sons became the trees in Nanda Maharaj's courtyard. And Krishna personally got stuck in between the grinding motor in the Damodar Leela, and both the trees came down, and both of them were liberated. And then they went back, not to the Swargiya Loka of Kuvera, but they went back to Golok. And there they got the position of being two great Gopas who constantly sing the glories every morning to Nanda Maharaj, and every night before they go to sleep, all the sweet pastimes of Krishna. They were Snigdha Kantha and Madhu Kantha, two Gopas. So like that, the childhood pastimes of Krishna were so sweet. And then he kills the demon Aghasur. Then then Lord Brahma, one time when they were picnicking, he steals the calves, the little cows, the little bachdas, and all his friends, because thinking that Krishna is the supreme Lord, and how come he is fighting over a piece of laddu and trying to take a half-eaten laddu from the mouth of his cowherd friends? What kind of a god he is? So then he wanted to test him. So he stole all this. That is called the Brahma Vimohan Leela. And then when Krishna displays his Satchitananda powers, amazing powers, where he duplicates all the calves, he duplicates his friends, Gopsakhas, and like that, Brahmaji is bewildered, and then he knows, yes, indeed, I'm messing with the wrong person. He is the Supreme Lord. Lord Brahma, he offers Krishna's prayers. Then there was the killing of Nakasura, the demon. And then like that, Krishna chastises the serpent, Kaliya serpent, in the Jamuna. And then there is the history of the Kaliya. All this is very nicely explained in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Then Lord Balram, he slays Pralambasura, swallowing the forest fire, the Davanal, the rainy season, and the autumn in Vrindavan. Prayata, what do you call the autumn is called Sharat. The Sharat, beautiful description as Krishna grows. And then the gopis glorify the song of Krishna's flute. Krishna is now much older. He's about 10, 11 years old at that time, in his full bloom, known as the Kaushorya. Krishna steals the garments of the unmarried gopis, the Chirharan and Leela, and the Brahmana's wives are blessed. So many beautiful pastimes, the worshipping of Govardhan Hill, how Krishna lifts the Govardhan Hill, and Lord Krishna, like that, prayers of Lord Indra, after he understands that he made a big mistake, and he takes Surbi guy as his lawyer, so that Krishna will forgive him. And then Krishna also rescues Nanda Maharaj from the abode of Varun, So all these are there. Krishna and the gopis meet for the ras dance, the Pancha Maharasa Dhyay, the Maharas that happens. Then the gopis, the Krishna leaves that ras and he disappears, and the gopis sing the songs of separation, the Gopi Geet. And then there is the reunion of after they sing the song of separation. Krishna comes back. It's so beautiful, and again enacts the Maharas. So, like this, there are so many beautiful pastimes of Sri Krishna in Vrindavan. It's amazing. What can I say? My heart just is simply, thinking, when will that day come where we can all be absorbed day and night in these wonderful pastimes of Sri Krishna? So this is Janmashtami celebration, day 3rd, Nanda-Utsav. And now I would love to uh, share with you all the divine appearance of Srila Prabhupada, his wonderful contribution to this whole world. Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace. Before I do that, what I would like to do is, generally because of COVID, we are not able to go to the temple. We offer Pushpanjali to Srila Prabhupada on this day, on his appearance day, known as the Abhirbhav, and on the disappearance day, known as the Tirobhav. With all the acharyas of the Vaishnavas, that is the proper etiquette. So what I'm going to do is, I'm quickly going to sing the Guru Ashtakam. And when I say Vande Guru Sri Charnaravindam, in your hearts and within your minds, if you want, you can offer some flowers to Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. Because this is an Ashtakam, it is 8 verses, and at the end of each verse, there is going to be Vande Guroho Sri Charnaravindam. So I will start there, and then I will try with the best of my capability to glorify Srila Prabhupada. And I'm sure the devotees will be amazed and relish Srila Prabhupada's pastimes. So we will start by, it's a wonderful bhajan that has been written. It is actually the Mangalarti that is being sung in all ISKCON temples and all Gaudiya Vaishnava mutts in the Gaudiya Vaishnava temples. It is called the Guru Ashtakam, the Ashtakam that glorifies the pure Guru. And this was composed by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti. This is after the passing away of Chaitanya, after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left, about 100 years after, 150 years after, Vishwanath Chakravarti was the crest jewel of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas. So he has composed many wonderful books and poetry. So one of them being this one. So, Samsara dava nalalira loka pranaya karunya ghana ganatvam praptasya kalyana gunarnavasya vande guru Sri Charinaravindam Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyan Manasora Romancha Kampashru Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Sri Charinaravindam Shri Vigrahara Nityanana Shringara Tanmandir Marjanada Yuktascha Bhaktams Chaniyunjatoyapi Vande Guru Shri Charana Ravindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagvat Prasado Swadanna Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangam Pritaiva Triptim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charana Ravindam Shri Radhikama Davayora Para Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namna Pratishana Swadanalolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charana Ravindam Nikunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhya Yayali Vidyukti Rapekshaniya Tatrati Daksha Dati Vallabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charana Ravindam Sakshadharitvena Samasta Shastre Uktastatha Bhav Yataiva Sadvi Kinto Prabhoya Priya Tasya Vande Guru Shri Charana Ravindam Yasya Prasadat Bhagavat Prasado Yasya Aprasadat Nagati Kutopi Dayanstu Mamstasya Yasyastri Sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charana Ravindam Idam Pushpanjali Samarpanam. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. So thank you very much for those who have offered Pushpanjali to the lotus feet of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. It is said in the Shastra, like one in the Uddhav Geet, that when sees the offerings that we make to the body, to the lotus, to the beautiful body of Krishna, like putting different ornaments on Krishna's bodies and jewelry and everything. Actually, the beauty of the jewelry is enhanced because of Krishna. It is not like usually in the normal world, when somebody wears jewelry, it enhances that person's beauty. But Uddhav says it's the other way around, that whatever jewelry we put on Sri Krishna's beautiful body, the beauty of the jewelry is enhanced. Similarly, when we offer something to the great Vaishnavas, even if it is a little service or a flower, we are the ones who will benefit. So it is to our benefit that when they accept such honor, and they accept that honor on behalf of their guru, and their guru and accepts it on behalf of their guru. All the way it reaches to Lord Balram and to Radha Krishna. So that is as I mentioned yesterday, it is called the Aroha Pantha of the notes Sare Gama Pada Ni Sa, from low to top. And the Kripa of Radha Krishna, they are so pleased when we are so humble and we take the attitude of becoming Das Anudas Anudas Anudas. The Kripa flows as Avaroha, like Sani Da Pa Ma Ga Re Sa, the opposite. So the glories are Aroha, ascending, and the Kripa is descending, it descends. So such a wonderful, great personality, Srila Prabhupada, he descended. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale. And there is a pranam mantra of of Krishna, many pranam mantras of Krishna, many pranam mantras of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, pranam mantras of many great Vaishnava acharyas. They are there. Pranam mantras basically that when we think of those mantras comprise of the wonderful qualities of that Vaishnava in a few lines. So that is the pranam mantra. So in Srila Prabhupada's pranam mantra, most of you all know it or may have heard of it. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale. Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. So we were fortunate by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas. Last year in Raj, in Kartik, we had given a 2-day seminar just on this on this Pranam Mantra. It was so elaborate and it was very well received by Srila Prabhupada disciples and many other persons. And they have probably blessed me, and they said that maybe you should write a book on this. Someday, by Srila Prabhupada's encouragement and blessings, it will happen. And just just this verse of Namam Vishnu Pada, we had by their own mercy. It's just like when we offer. How do we offer Ganga? How do we make an offering to Mother Ganga? It's by offering the Ganga water to Ganga. Tera tujhko arpan. We offer the same. So similarly, when I speak, it is basically I'm offering Srila Prabhupada's own teachings. As like Srila Prabhupada, I am your very fallen and insignificant grandson here. So I hope you can accept me and purify me. And those who are constantly coming and attending these programs, please bless them as well, Srila Prabhupada. On the day of the Acharya's appearance or disappearance, it is said that one can directly pray to them and seek their blessings. So I seek your blessings, Srila Prabhupada, for all of us present here, so that we can be purified and we can discern between impure and pure and make our life successful and make our Acharyas very happy. So Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale. I will very briefly go into this pranam mantra so that you all can get an idea on what it really means. So I offer my obeisances to Om Vishnu Pad. Vishnu Pad means one who has surrendered himself to the lotus feet of Vishnu. Now Vishnu is again mainly understood as the predominating deities or Narayana's, Vishnu's or Vaikuntha. So what is that God with Srila Prabhupada or the Gaudiya Vaishnavas? So again, there's a very deeper meaning of the word Vishnu. Vishnu means all pervading. And Sanatana Goswami has used this word in Damodar Ashtakam, Namo Deva Damodar Ananta Vishnu. He has used those words. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas are not concerned with any Vaikuntha Bhakti because it is of awe and reverence and it doesn't have that sweetness. In Vaikuntha, everybody knows that Krishna or Krishna's avatars are the Supreme Lord, and that kind of spoils the intimacy. But in Golok or Vrindavan, We don't care whether you are the Supreme Lord or not. When we are purified and we have reached that stage of the Vrajvasis, you are just our Lala, you're just our lover, you're just our Sakha, and that's all we care. When Krishna loses in a game with Sridham, Sridham, Subal, and all the Sakhas, he has to be punished too. The punishment is that you have to catch your ears and sit down 100 times, or you have to hold the other coward boy on your back and take him to the other side. Sometimes Madhu Mangal used to say, so what, I am a poor Brahmin son, Krishna, and you are the son of Nanda Maharaj, but you have lost the game. We don't care. Sometimes we have heard that you are doing some magical feats. Some people even think that you are God, but I don't care. You have lost Kana, you go down, you carry me to the other end. That is the prem, and Krishna loves that. When the gopis of Raj, when they sometimes speak very, very abusive language, Shyam Sundar, you are Kala, and your heart is also Kala, and you are a liar, and this and that. You promised to come to meet our Radha, but you never come on time. Your heart is, and Krishna loves that abusive language more than these hymns of the Vedas. So this is the Vraj Bhav. So Namam Vishnu Pada, one who has surrendered to the lotus feet of sweet Krishna, Vishnu, all pervading in Vraj. Sometimes he's in Govardhan, sometimes in Radhakund, sometimes on the banks of the Jamuna, sometimes in Mahavan, sometimes in Lovan, sometimes in Barsana, sometimes in. So that is why he's simultaneously present. As I mentioned the other day, that there in Golok Vrindavan is like a many prakosta. Each prakosta represents a petal, and in those petals Krishna is simultaneously present, performing different pastimes depending on the bhav of that devotee. Somebody is in Vatsalya Ras, he is definitely not going to ever grow up for that person, and he will accept their services or do and serve them in a reciprocal way. So like that is Namam Vishnu Padaya. Vishnu Padaya, one who has surrendered to that Nandan Krishna. Here Vishnu Pad means Nandan Krishna, Brajendra Nandan Krishna, Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale, one who is very dear to Krishna, and he came down to Bhutal, to this earthly planet. So that means there is an indication right there in that Pranam mantra that he came down from Golok Vrindavan. Now, there are many residents of Golok and many residents in Vaikuntha. 25% is material, 75% is Vaikuntha, spiritual. And 75% means, you can imagine the population of pure devotees in the Vaikuntha planets, including Golok Vrindavan. We are minorities. Even within minorities, devotees are extremely rare. Maunam janmanamante jnanvan mam prapadyante vasudev sarvamiti samaatma sudurlabha manushyanam sahasresu kaschit yatati siddhe. Out of millions and millions of human beings, one attains that perfection of pure bhakti. Krishna said that in the Bhagavad Gita. These two slokas are from Bhagavad Gita. So all those perfected souls are there, but only a few perfected souls are given the opportunity to do some special seva. As I've mentioned in the past, that supposing if we have a nice big wedding in the house, and we have so many guests going to come, maybe in India we have seen that 1,000 people, sometimes they show up, 2,000 people, big weddings. So in the weddings in the past, when we were in my childhood, I've seen they used to last the whole week, right from starting of writing the invitation card and doing kirtans, and all of those things were there. And some of the key core, the family is big, but only a few selected core members are given very special service. They'll say, you'll take care of this, don't worry, don't even think about it, it will be done. Like that, everything goes very flawless in a big. So similarly, certain sevas, not all the Vaishnavas or not all those, although in Vaikuntha and Golok, not all are inclined to, or all have completely understood the highest seva. So therefore, there are those that have understood that, they are called Preshta devotees. Preshtaya Bhutale. That is why Bhaktivedanta Swami, his name was Preshtaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. He is Shri Mate. Shri actually is a word of respect that is normally in Sanskrit given to a person, especially a male. That's how it is. But if we go into a little bit into rasa, into the Shri means also Radharani, and one whose mind and thoughts and deeds are always in serving Shri Radha. That is known as A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. That personality is known as Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Many people have studied the Vedas since time immemorial. Even the disciples of Sankaracharya Path, those who are experts in the Vedas, they are called Vedantists. But Srila Prabhupada is known as Bhakti Vedantists, because those Vedantists who study Veda to kill Krishna, Mayavadis, Mayavad Nirakarta. Even Vallabhacharya Mahaprabhu said that he would condemn those Mayavadis, those who think that they are God ultimately, those who think that there is no Krishna, there is no shape, they are all Nirgun. I have explained that Mayavada concept elaborately in the past, so I'm sure you all understand that. So those are called Vedantists because but Bhakti Vedantists is those who have understood the core of the Vedas through the Bhakti Bhav. Those who have understood as Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that one can know me only through Bhakti. He doesn't say Gyan, he doesn't say anything otherwise. He says Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati. Very clearly Krishna, as Arjuna even asked these questions, that what is better? Should his meditation, Dhyan Yoga better, or to meditate on the Brahman? All this are there in the 7th chapter. There's a nice conversation. And Krishna says, I think in my opinion, best is Bhakti Yoga. So like this. So that is why Srila Prabhupada is known as Bhakti Vedantist. All our acharyas in this Gaudiya line, those who are in the pure Vaishnava line, including Sri Vallabhacharya and others, they are all Bhakti Vedantists. Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine, known as Namaste Saraswati Devi. I offer my obeisances to the transcendental son of Saraswati Thakur. Yesterday, Asim Prabhu had mentioned about Surya Siddhant. So when Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur had written a treatise in the Calcutta University, he was a very good astrologer. And that's why the Calcutta University bestowed, this is prior to independence at that time, bestowed that title of Saraswati. So in short form, here he's known as Namaste Saraswati Devi. Most of them pronounce this incorrectly. They say Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pracharya. No, Saraswati means it's the goddess of learning, and she's a female. Here Saraswati means it's Sanskrit. The daughter of Janak Raja is known as Janaki. The son of Vasudeva is known as Vasudev, or the son of Saraswati Thakur or Saraswati is known as Saraswati. So Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine. And he is the one who is always speaking Gauravani, speaking preaching the glories of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and speaking everything based on the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is Gauravani. Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Nirvisesh, those who are Mayavads, those who think that there is no God, there is no form of God, everything is Nirgun, those are called Nirvisesh. Shunyavad are called Buddhists, that at the end there is no soul, there is no body. That's what Nirvana is, basically eradicating the body, the soul. There is no such thing as a Shunyavad. Paschatya means all the Western people. Prabhupada came and he converted. One day when he went back to India, and after he established temples and centers in America, in UK, Australia, then he went and he used to go to India intermittently. And then he was so famous that even reporters and even the Prime Minister had given him an audience. So Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister then. So the reporters used to say, Swamiji, they were seeing him in a saffron-clad clothing. What do the normal journalists know about real sadhus? So they are used to taking interviews of sadhus who do some miracles, like somebody who can take out some ash from their fist or some fruit or a piece of gold. There was a so-called sadhu in South India who did this miraculous feats due to some siddhis that he had. So this is what the most common people have in mind. So they asked Srila Prabhupada, Swamiji, what kind of miracle do you do? So Swamiji, at that time, he picked up his cane. He always used to walk with a cane. He's an old man. So he pointed his cane to all his foreign disciples, all his white disciples. He said, I make hippies into happies. This is the miracle I do. So in other words, Paschatya Deshatarine. Paschatya Deshatarine means he delivered all those persons who did all the worst nonsense. They were Shudras of the most abominable class. When Prabhupada came, all those persons, they were hippies. They were having free sex, unlimited drugs, intoxicants, and that's the way they were trying to find their ultimate happiness. And to convert such persons, it's very difficult. It's very difficult even for Indians to give up their tea and coffee. We have seen even in so many Vaishnava sampradayas, big gurus, they are drinking tea. And then, so that is not the purity. Krishna says in Mahabharata and in the Shastra, Striyam Dutam Panam Shunam Yatra Adharma Chaturvida. One should, these are the four things that are against religious principles, against spirituality. What are they? Striyam, having affairs with outside of marriage. One, Striyam. Dutam, gambling. Panam, meaning intoxicants. So anything that has got anything that has got intoxicants, tea, coffee, or anything else, that is not proper for Vaishnavas to take. Priyam dutam panam shunam, and meat eating. Yatra, these, adharma, they are against the principles of religion, against spirituality. Chaturvida, these four. So Prabhupada gave everything as it is. So he converted his hippies into happies. Those who are day and night on drugs, today, if we see in the movement, they don't even touch tea or coffee. What to talk about meat eating or anything else. So this is a miracle. How many sadhus were able to do this? Many sadhus came to the West, but they were even afraid to open their mouth. When Srila Prabhupada came here to the West, he first came across in New York in 1965. He knew that the Ramakrishna Mutt was there. He was a Bengali by mother tongue. And Vivekananda had come to Chicago in 1899, almost 66 years before. And there were some establishments of the Ramakrishna Mutt in San Francisco, New York, Chicago, some big cities. So he thought he was all alone by himself. Maybe he would go there and get some guidance about some normal basic things about New York City. And then when he went there, he started speaking in Bengali. And then these Ramakrishna Mutt people told him that, Swamiji, here, it is very cold in New York. In winter, you have to even take some brandy or whiskey to keep yourself warm. And you have to also eat some meat to keep yourself body strong, because they were all meat eaters, and perhaps they drank some liquor, maybe in winter. These were his words. These are Prabhupada's own words. So Prabhupada said, I am here to give something pure, and I will keep it pure. If those who want to accept it, they will accept it. Just like a pure diamond is only affordable to a few people. And imitation jewelry or imitation diamonds, there are thousands and lakhs of people who can buy those. So that's why Prabhupada never changed the philosophy. He never ever compromised. He gave everything as it is. So he appeared in 1896 on September 1st, according to the English calendar, in Calcutta. And Srila Prabhupada was born to a very pious Vaishnava father by the name Gaur Mohan De Babu. Gaur Mohan De Babu was a cloth merchant, and he was a wonderful Vaishnava. Prabhupada used to sometimes cry remembering his Vaishnava father, that he was so kind by heart that even, when he closed his shop, because he was a cloth merchant, he used to keep some prasadam in a katori, in an earthen pot, in an earthen bowl, so that, there were some mice or mouse that would be roaming about, and then they would get something to eat. That is the heart of a Vaishnava. It is said, Prabhupada used to say, reminding on this pastime of his father, that a Vaishnava doesn't sit to eat without first calling out 3 times outside his house, is anybody hungry? Is anybody hungry? Is anybody hungry? Please come and take prasad. These are those original Vedic culture. So his father was such a wonderful sadhu by nature, a nice businessman, they were very well-to-do people, actually speaking, maybe upper middle class, very nice big Haveli in Calcutta. And Prabhupada remembers that one time he was very sick. He had become a victim of malaria. Malaria is very, very bad at that time. One who had full-fledged malaria would not survive because the proper medications were not available. Remember, we are talking about 1900, 1896, 97, 98, something like that, when he was very, very small. And then when the doctors gave up, Gaur Mohan De Babu picked up, his name was Abhay Charan. When he appeared, he called an astrologer, and his astrologer told his father that this personality, your son, is going to be a very great person. He's a great saint, and he's going to establish at least 108 temples in this world. This was the prediction at the time of birth. Just like Krishna's birth, Gargamuni was called by Nanda Maharaj. Similarly, Gaur Mohan De Babu had also called an astrologer at that time to do his Kundali, Srila Prabhupada's Kundali and chart. So anyways, when he was so sick, nothing could happen. They called the doctors and nothing. But Gaur Mohan, they had so much faith in, they had, I believe they had the Radha Madan Mohan deities in their house. That's what they were called. He picked up the child and he put him at the lotus feet of Radha Madan Mohan and put a tulsi leaf on his forehead. And he said, cried and said, Krishna, he's yours. Do as you please. I'm offering him to you. This astrologer says that he has a lot of work to do on your behalf. So if you so desire, please save him. And then finally, that fever and all that was gone and he became nice and healthy. So these were some of the very childhood pastimes. In 1901, Srila Prabhupada conducted the first Rath Yatra in the suburb of Calcutta. He made, actually his Gorman De Baba made a very small, nice toy cart, like a chariot, and they put the little Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra Devi, and within their, their neighborhood, they all, along with the neighbors, did their Rath Yatra in Calcutta at that time. So in 1902, Srila Prabhupada began worshipping Radha Krishna. They had the Radha Madan Mohan temple in the colony also. And we had the good fortune a few years ago, my wife and I had visited Calcutta from Mayapur, and we went to that place where Srila Prabhupada used to worship, and his home. Prabhupada still used to remind, and in my home there were trees of kathal, the jackfruit trees. So we still saw that jackfruit tree was still there. So like this, and then like Prabhupada, when he grew up in 1916, he became a good student and he joined the Scottish Churches College, the student of philosophy. He was studying theism at that time. Then in 1918, he got married to a Mataji by the name Radharani. Her wife's name was Radharani. And he had 3 children, 3 boys, Vrindavan Chandra, Prayagraj, and Mathura Mohan. And then in 1921, as we all know that this is also pre-independence, he was very much attracted to the Mahatma Gandhi's movement of, and he had actually he joined Mahatma Gandhi's movement, and he also had got a very nice job. He in a lab known as the Bose Laboratories as an assistant manager, and that's in 1921. And it so happened that in the year 1922, while he was working, and the day had finished, and he was just up, he stepped out of the Bose Laboratories in Calcutta. One of his friends, I think his name was Bipin, he came up to him, and Bipin Babu, he told Abhay Babu that, Abhay, let's go. I want to take you to a very special place today. There is a very nice sadhu who has come to town in Kolkata on 1 Ulta Danga Road. So we should go take his darshan. So Abhay Babu said, Bipinda, you want to go, you go. But I want to go home. I don't believe in all these sadhus. My father, Gaur Mohan De, who was such a wonderful person, very, very simple-hearted, he used to entertain anybody who was dressed up in a sadhu's vesh. He used to bring them inside the house, feed them, give them dakshina. And then, I've noticed after they left and went around the corner, they went to the BD shop and they bought some BD or tobacco, or some of them even smoked charas. So I don't have faith in all that. I don't have time. I'm tired from work. I have to go home and do my own seva. I have my own Thakurji. I'm going to do my seva. So Bipin Babu at that time insisted, Abhay, just 5 minutes, come please. And he pulled his sleeves in the middle of the road. And then Abhay Babu gave up. He said, okay, just 5 minutes, just for your satisfaction, I'm coming. But if you do not like what I hear or see, I'm going to leave immediately. Bipin Babu said, yes, no problem. So be it. So then they went to number 1 Ulta Danga Road. It's a very, very old area of Kolkata. And there on the terrace, it is a 3-story building. We had the fortune of having darshan of that place as well many years ago when I had visited Mayapur in one of those trips. So there, it is just like a ordinary, very, very lower middle class families living in that building. But a sadhu had visiting one of the grihasthas, and this sadhu was giving a pravachan on the rooftop because there were many people assembled. So they decided to use the terrace. So when Abhay Babu and Bipin Babu entered that terrace and they sat in the back, And then after a few minutes, this grave, tall sadhu looked directly at Abhay Babu and said, "You seem to be a very educated person. You should preach the glories of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You should preach the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. You should preach the glories of Bhagavad Gita, of Sanatan Dharma, especially based on the lines of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu." And Abhay Babu was taken aback that he's talking to me like this directly. So then he respectfully, after the pravachan was finished, just like how we when somebody speaks and at the end there's a Q&A session, question answer session. So at that time, Abhay Babu asked a question to this Swamiji. Swamiji, you said that we should be preaching this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Vani and Bhagavad, etc. But our duty right now, we're talking about the year 1922. He said, our duty right now is we are slaves under the British Raj. We have to free ourselves from this slavery. That is our primary duty. So then, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that the Gurudev, the would-be Guru of Srila Prabhupada, he said that, are you really free? Think about it. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. Janma, you're forced to take birth according to karma. Sometimes some people say, Arey Baba, why was I born in such a family? Or why was I born in such an impoverished state? Even that birth, sometimes people curse. We don't have a choice in one sense because of our karma. So birth is forced on us. A particular family, a particular place, a particular country, a particular circumstance is forced on us. So it is forced. Janma, Mrityu. Mrityu is forced. Death. Needless to explain that any further. Nobody can say that I won't die. Death is forced on all of us. That is the quality of this material world. And in between death and birth, the quality of two more things is what? Is getting diseases and getting old. None of us can say that we have not incurred diseases. A common cold or fever or depression, so many that adhyatmic kleshas are there. That is always there. And old age. Ask all the old people as you're getting older, as they get older, their knees are hurting, they're getting arthritis, and so many common things that they used to do so nicely, they're not able to do so nicely. So these are the things that are forced on us. So are you really free? This sadhu asked Abhay Babu, and then he said, referring to the freedom movement, he said that politics will not change, but politicians will change. What is the guarantee that today these people who will free India after 100 years, 200 years, or after a prolonged period of time, or at any given time, again India can become a slave, or any country can become a slave of another country? And which is so true. From our practical experience, we have seen right in the last 20 years or so, Saddam Hussein attacked Kuwait. He became the king of Kuwait. And after that, just after a month or so, Saddam Hussein was defeated by the US, and then US occupied Iraq. Iraq became the king, the US became the king of Iraq. So like this, these annexations have been happening right from the time, if we can remember our history books that we learned in school, like Alexander the Great. All he did is conquer, conquer, conquer. He went on conquering, and he went on conquering each and every country that he could, as far as he could. So like this, he said, the real freedom that I'm talking about is the freedom of the soul, eternal freedom. That's the freedom I'm talking about. So the freedom that Lord Krishna is talking about, the freedom from being reborn again. And Tattva Punarjanmaneti Mahameti Sorjuna, one who comes back to me is never born in this material world. So where is the question of being a slave? You're not even a slave of the body. Forget about being a British slave. So like this, when Sri Abhay Babu heard that, he was in shock. And he went home and he told his father, Gormonde, he was crying in ecstasy. He said, Baba, I found my Guru. Today I was defeated in an argument, thinking that my arguments were so good, my logic was so good, but I found a great pleasure in being defeated. These are Prabhupada's words. Like, generally when we lose in a debate or an argument, we are not happy about it. Is it not true? But Prabhupada says clearly to his father, although I lost in this debate, I felt very pleased, I felt very content, and I found my Guru. And like that, he surrendered to mentally to His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Then in 1925, Srila Prabhupada visited Vrindavan for the first time. He was actually on his job. He had a pharmaceutical industry business. He was representing the Bose Laboratories, and his job was to go all over India to sell the products to the different pharmacies. So when he was passing through Mathura, suddenly he remembered that my Guru Maharaj is going to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada is in Rajmandal. He's doing parikrama. It is Kartik time. And then he went and he got off at Mathura station, and he did not continue to his journey onwards that was meant for his business purpose. And then he sat there and he went and joined the whole parikrama, and he listened to his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. In 1928, Srila Prabhupada had actually settled in Allahabad because he had opened a pharmacy there itself, and he helped establish the Gaudiya Math there in Allahabad. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had established 64 Gaudiya Maths all over India, one of them being in Allahabad. So with the assistance of his senior god brother, His Holiness Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, he had established the Gaudiya Math in Allahabad. He recollects how Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, being a sannyasi, as a grihastha, he had served Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj very nicely, and Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj was very pleased with him. And wherever there was a program, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj used to call Abhay Babu because he was an expert mridang player and he was an expert kirtanya. So like this, in 1932, Srila Prabhupada or Abhay Babu was initiated by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and his name became Abhay Charna Ravinda Das. So father had given his name Abhay Charan, and he became Abhay Charna Ravinda Das. One of the names of Krishna is Abhay Charan. Abhay means one who gives fearlessness, and Charan means the feet. So one who is surrendered to Krishna, one who is surrendered to the Supreme Lord, naturally that person is going to be fearless. He's not going to fear death, because death is just a change of the body. He knows the basics of the Bhagavad Gita. He knows that while remembering Krishna at the time of death, he will be transported into the spiritual world. So there is no fear. A Vaishnava is never fearful. Like Prahlad Maharaj, he was not fearful. They tried to kill him in different ways. Hiranyakashipu, by dropping him from the top of a mountain, by pushing him into an empty, deep, dark well full of venomous snakes. Tried to kill him under the feet of a heavy, bad elephant, and all those different things. And even Holika, Hiranyakashipu's sister, who had the benediction of not getting burnt in fire, that was the last resort. And Holika said, "Let me take Prahlad in my lap and I will enter a huge fire." And lo and behold, what happened? Holika got burned. That benediction got completely nullified. And as a matter of fact, it had an adverse effect on that. And Prahlad came out unscathed. Prahlad was not scared. Always Sri Hari. He was always. So Abhay Charna Ravinda. Krishna is Abhay Charna Ravinda. His lotus feet are Bhajahu Re Mada. Is a nice bhajan by Govindas that starts with Bhajahu Re Mana Shri Nanda Nandana Abhay Charna Ravinda Re Abhay Charna Ravinda. So his initiated name became Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada gave him the name the Abhay Charna Ravinda Das, the servant of the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. Amazing. Then in 1934, when he had gone to Bombay, because of his business, also because of work, he had also helped establish the Bombay Gaudiya Math at Gowalia time. I don't know how many of you all knew, but there was in Bombay, those who are from Bombay, there was actually a Gaudiya Math. Of course, it's not there in that place anymore. It's in a different area. It's in Bandra right now. But the Bhakti Abhay Charna Ravinda Das had helped establish that math. And in that math, on the appearance of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, just like today is the appearance of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, on the appearance of his Gurudev, he was in Bombay at that time. So he and his godbrothers had celebrated the appearance of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. And in that, he had made a wonderful offering in English. Srila Prabhupada was a wonderful, he wrote very nicely. And most of the people in the Gaudiya Math, they dubbed him Kaviraj. He used to call Abhay Charna Ravinda Das Kaviraj. That's what they called him, lovingly. So in one of the poems that I remember a few lines, he wrote on the appearance of his Gurudev in English. Amazing. He says, adore, adore ye all the happy day, sweeter than heaven, brighter than May, when he appeared in Puri, the holy place, my Lord and Master, His divine grace. Because Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, he appeared in Puri. I had explained that during the Rath Yatra also, that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his father, was an established justice there. He was a judge, and he was posted in Jagannath Puri. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada appeared in Puri. So adore, adore ye all the happy days, sweeter than heaven, brighter than May, when he appeared in Puri, the holy place, my Lord and Master, His divine grace. So like that, in this poem, there's another very striking verse. Abhay Charna Ravinda Abhay Charna Ravinda Das Prabhu says that absolute is sentient, thou has proved, impersonal calamity, thou has moved. So he's addressing this, again, eulogizing, glorifying his spiritual master. Absolute is sentient. Sri Krishna is the absolute truth. Satyam Param Dhimahi. Thou hast proved. You have proved that through your discourses, through Bhagavatam, through so many wonderful esoteric Vaishnava literatures. You have proved that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and He is the absolute truth. Satyam Param Dhimahi, that Vyasadeva talks about in the very first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he says, impersonal calamity thou hast moved. Amazing. Impersonal calamity means the problem maker's Mayavadi, the calamity or the musibat, the calamity of the Mayavad philosophy, thou hast moved. You have completely eradicated that philosophy. As a matter of fact, Prabhupada mentions that when his Guru Maharaj used to walk either in Navadvip or in Kolkata, and when Mayavadi persons saw him, they would change paths. Oh my God, now it's and then when Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada would see that Mayavadi sannyasi, he would immediately catch him. And sometimes he would be very, very strong. He was a Singha Guru, and catch him and say, why you think Krishna is impersonal? Why do you think Krishna doesn't have a form? You rascal. Like this, he used to, that's why in his Pranam Mantra, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada's Pranam Mantra, it is said, Rupa Anuga Viruddha Apasiddhanta Dvanta Harine. Anything against the principles of Rupa Goswami, which is exactly the same of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Manoabhishta, he would cut to pieces, Dvanta Harine. Any kind of logic or anything that would kill Krishna by thinking that Krishna is formless, God is formless. Why do you call him formless? Huh? You are so proud, you think you are God? So like this, he had written this poem, and then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was so pleased when he read that poem. He showed it to everybody. He showed it to everybody in Navadvip or in Calcutta, wherever he was, and he says, look how beautifully he has read. And then he said that whatever he writes, Abhay Charna Ravinda Das, publish it. Actually, there was a magazine that was started known as the Harmonist, or in Bengali it was called the Sajjan Toshani, by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, a spiritual magazine that dealt with pure bhakti topics. And in that, some of his leading senior disciples used to write articles along with his divine grace himself. But then he instructed them, whatever Abhay Charna Ravinda Das writes, you please, you publish it. So like that, Prabhupada was eulogized by his own spiritual master. In 1935, again during the Vrajmandal Parikrama, the last year, when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, he left his body in December of 31st, according to the English calendar, in 1935. But prior to that, during the Diwali time, during the Kartik Mas, he had done the Kartik Parikrama along with his disciples, and Abhay Charna Ravinda Dev was also present, and on the banks of Radhapur. And he got very special instructions from his spiritual master. He said, whenever you get money, please print pure devotional books, print books. And he also predicted, in Bengali he said, the two words that I do remember, Agun Jolibe, after I'm gone, the mutt will be burning, because some of my disciples will be fighting over which room I will take, which room I will take, which places I will be comfortably situated in. So that he had already predicted, but he said that, you, whenever you get money, you print books. That was his instruction, the last and final instruction. First instruction on his first meeting was that preach the glories of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Bhagavad to the English-speaking world. And the final instruction was that please, when you get money, print books. And Srila Prabhupada took that to heart. And 1936, that final order from his spiritual master to preach in the West that was there in the original 1922, he took it to heart. And then in 1939, Srila Prabhupada was given the title of Bhaktivedanta by the Society of Gaudiya Vaishnavas because of his wonderful scholarship in bhakti, in the books and everything. So he was given that title, Bhaktivedanta. In 1944, he started the Back to Godhead magazine, following in the footsteps of his Guru Maharaj. What he did is he started a magazine called Bhagavad Darshan, which is in Hindi, and in English it's called Back to Godhead. And he used to write wonderful articles, and like that he published that little magazine. It was a fortnightly magazine. And then in 1953 he started the League of Devotees in Jhansi, and he initiated his very first disciple back then. Most people don't know that, even in ISKCON, that Prabhupada's first disciple was in India, and his name was Acharya Prabhakar. He was his first disciple in the League of Jhansi. He had initiated in 1953. Prabhupada, the purpose of starting the League of Devotees in Jhansi was to propagate Krishna consciousness, very systematically based on the Srimad Bhagavatam, which are the same principles of what Prabhupada said when he actually founded ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And in 1954, he retired from his family life, adopting the Vanaprastha retired order of life. So out of the 4 ashrams, the first ashram is Brahmacharya, and the second ashram is Grahastha, when somebody gets married. The third ashram is after marriage life, one retires into Vanaprastha. Vanaprastha means one means going into the forest, and prastha means to proceed. That is called Vanaprastha. It's one of the ashrams. And then the 4th ashram is Sannyas ashram. From Vanaprastha, one makes sannyas qualification very easily, because they are already renounced. They are already detached from the family, kids, wife, etc., money. So Vanaprastha is a stepping stone for sannyas. So like that, he retired from family life. Actually, there's a very nice small incident when interesting incident. Prabhupada had actually started translating the Bhagavad Gita as it is, sitting in his house in the 1950s. And then one time it so happened that he was actually, this business had failed. And he considered that as the mercy of Krishna. He had big plans of opening a pharmaceutical industry, and when he was in making such plans, at that time there was hardly any electricity. He was studying those plans under the lantern, and then it is said either a gust of wind or a mouse or a rat with the tail knocked that lantern, and all the papers, the business plans were burned. So at that time he remembers the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna speaks to Bali Maharaj, that on those persons who I bestow my special mercy, I take away everything. And when I take away everything, their wealth, tadi harishyate dhanam, I take away all their wealth. And when that happens, all those relatives and friends and so-called, they will abandon those persons because of they do not have any money left. And that is a special mercy that I saw. The same thing that Bali Maharaj, when Vamandev came, he took away everything with the 3 steps of land. He took away the whole kingdom. He took away the entire lower planetary systems, the Prithvi. He even took away the higher planetary systems. And then he said, the 3rd step, where shall I put? He was gone. He didn't have anything. So he says, please put it on my head, Bali Maharaj. Like that, Krishna in the form of Vamandev puts the 3rd step on Vamandev's head, and because he had promised 3 steps. So that time Krishna tells Bali Maharaj that I take away everything, especially to whom I bestow special mercy. Of course, these are very rare cases. Krishna only chooses those persons who can tolerate that. Don't worry, because we will be doing Krishna Bhakti. He will not take away everything of us, because we are not of that stature of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. We are not that Preshta yet. Okay, the day we become Preshta, then he will put us through all those litmus tests. Until then, he will only give us what we can tolerate. And he will be more of a caring and a giving father rather than a taking away. So these are some very, very special cases that Prabhupada reminisces in his, and that is all very nicely given in one very nice large volume. It's called Prabhupada Leela Amrit. One should read that even before you read Shastra. Prabhupada Leela Amrit is an amazing book. I encourage everyone to read it. It is the pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, all practical things that have just happened. It's not we are talking about 5,000 years ago in the forest of Vrindavan, or 10,000 years ago, or 40 million years ago when Lord Ramachandra appeared during the Ramayana, etc. This is right there. It's so real. And that's one of my first books, actually speaking. That's what attracted me to Srila Prabhupada and the ISKCON movement. I had gone to the Chicago temple, and there was a free copy, and it was called Prabhupada. It was the concise version of the Leela Amrit. And as usual, I was just a normal Hindu going to the temple on Diwali or on the birthday, just offering my obeisances or my danvats to the deities. But when I walked out, I saw on the table in the lobby a free book, free. I said, wow, free. And I always like to read something philosophical. I picked it up. I went home. I read it. And I read it within 3 hours, and I reread it 3 times. It was so amazing. Most of my questions all throughout my life that I had, although being born in a Vaishnava family, they were not being answered. They were answered in Srila Prabhupada's Leela Amrit. So I highly encourage all of you. Today what I'm speaking is all those things that I remembered from Leela Amrit of Srila Prabhupada, and that I had heard from different devotees about that. So Prabhakar Acharya was his first disciple, and then he retired from his life, from his family life. How did the retirement come about? So that retirement came about in a very, very tricky way. Krishna actually has his ways to do certain things. At home, while he was translating the Bhagavad Gita, and it was all handwritten. He had a bunch of scripts that he had kept in the corner of a cupboard, and he had left to do some work. And then when he came back, all those scripts had gone. That entire bunch of papers that he had with his translation and all his tika and purports, everything was gone. So he asked his wife, I had kept some papers in that corner in the cupboard. Have you seen them? Did you clean them and did you put it in another place? Oh, and she simply laughed and said, oh, I did not have enough money to buy tea and biscuits, so I sold them to the Raddiwala. I sold it in the recycler. Prabhupada was furious. And then he asked his wife, tea or me? And his wife mockingly said, tea. So he said, okay, fine. And Prabhupada left his home right that second. He left. He never came back. So, of course, because Prabhupada's businesses failed, he did not have money. It is mentioned that he did not even have money to pay rent for his rented place. And even the couple of employees, they were on back salaries. He could not afford to pay them. And all this he saw as Krishna's special mercy. And he used to sometimes cry, thinking that where is my father? Where is he gone? Where is my loving mother? Where is she gone? Now nobody is there with me. Everybody has left me because nobody is. Even his wife could not understand him. Of course, this was a transcendental Leela. That's what we should understand. That Krishna had a very high purpose. So when Srila Prabhupada left, he went to Vrindavan, and there he stayed there 5 years in the Vamshigopal Mandir, and 5 years he stayed in the 10 years of Vrindavan stay. He stayed in the Seva Kunj in Radha Damodar temple. And in 1959, he actually accepted sannyas from one of his senior godbrothers. In his sannyas, he actually got a dream from his Guru Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada had already left his body in 1936. And this we are talking about 1959. And Prabhupada was thinking that what a dream, 3-4 times, and he had come even in his previous, when he was at home, that it's time for you to take sannyas. And Abhay Charana Ravinda Das was thinking that I have a family, I have children, how I can take sannyas. And then he discussed this with his senior godbrother, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj. And Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, and first he talked to a lot of other senior God brothers in the Gaudiya Math, and they discouraged him. They said that, no, you're not ready for it. You come and stay in the Math and then we will see. And he also used to even sometimes tell them, Prabhupada. So, okay, just to make sure that you all understand, Prabhupada is a title. And A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada called his Guru Maharaj also Prabhupada. And all his God brothers, all those that were initiated by the same spiritual master, they also addressed him as Prabhupada. So Rupa Goswami is also Prabhupada. Sanatana Goswami is also Prabhupada. All great personalities who have surrendered completely to the lotus feet of Krishna are known as Prabhupada. That's one meaning of Prabhupada. Another meaning of Prabhupada that has been explained is where all the Prabhus, so many Vaishnavas gather at the lotus feet of that personality is called also Prabhupada. So there's a double meaning of the word Prabhupada. So A.C. Bhaktivedanta Abhay Charnaravinda Das told his senior God brothers, it was the desire of Prabhupada that we should preach a Bhagavad Gaurvani to the English speaking world. So we should try to go abroad and do that. So they said, no. We will observe you. You stay in the Math and then we will think about it. So they did not even care for their spiritual master's desire, which Abhay Charana Ravinda Das has mentioned to them. But Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, one of his senior God brothers, having so much bond with him, he understood and he said, I will give you sannyas. And he gave him sannyas. Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj ji gave Abhay Charana Ravinda Babu sannyas. And then his name changed from Abhay Charana Ravinda Das to Swami Maharaj. That is his sannyas name. But then the rest of it that we say, like A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shrila Prabhupada ki Jai, is the Swami Maharaj, is rest of it, the prefixes and the suffixes are all adjectives that glorifies the person. Bhaktivedanta, the Swami Maharaj was a Bhaktivedantist. Therefore, Bhaktivedanta Swami. Prabhupada, because he was such a great soul that is why he was given the title of Prabhupada. So therefore, the suffix is Prabhupada, the prefix is Bhaktivedanta. So like that. So the Swami Maharaj was given, and Swami Maharaj or A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Actually, he was not called Prabhupada until he came to the West, by the way. So that's why I will also refer him right now, presently, just so that we keep the historical timeline properly. We will call him Swami Maharaj. So Swami Maharaj had gone to Vrindavan 5 years. He stayed at the Keshi Ghat near the Vamshi Gopal temple. And then not too far from there in Seva Kunj, there is the Radha Damodar temple. In Radha Damodar temple, it is the place where Rupa Goswami Samadhi is there. Krishnaraj Kaviraj Goswami Samadhi is there. Srila Bhugar Goswami Samadhi is there. Jiva Goswami Samadhi is there. So many wonderful Vaishnavas, including the Pushpa Samadhi of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. So he stayed there in two very small rooms across each other. One was a very small kitchen, barely 7 feet by 4 feet, 4 or 5 of us, about 30 square feet. And the other one being about maybe 50 to 60 square feet, no more than that. In one of those rooms, that was his sleeping room, his writing room, there he used to translate Srimad Bhagavatam. He finished the first volume of Srimad Bhagavatam in India, in the Radha Damodar Mandir in Seva Kunj. And the original Bhagavatam was in 3 volumes. Right now you can find it in 1 large volume. But he had 3 volumes that Srila Prabhupada had published. And not only that, while he was in Vrindavan, he used to make frequent trips to Delhi, to the printing presses, because most of the big industries are in Delhi. Even today, even if you go to Vrindavan, all the stuff that you get in Vrindavan is imported from different states, all like Bombay or Surat or Delhi, because these are the big metropolises. So in order to even publish his Back to Godhead magazine, sometimes he would go and beg to the printing press people, "Beta, ye chhap le, can you print this from me, my dear son? I'm doing this. I'm a sannyasi. I don't have any money, but that will do you good if you will help me to, it was my Guru Maharaj's desire to continue the publication. So I'm doing this." So then some of the printing press people used to print it, and Prabhupada or Swami Maharaj used to stand on the streets of Delhi in the hot heat, 50 degrees, 55 degrees Celsius, and he used to approach people on the sidewalk, on the footpath. "Beta, ye le, ye tere kaam aayega. Sirf 2 paisa ka hai. I would like to cover the cost of the printing so that I don't have to ask for free printing every time." And sometimes in that heat, he would swoon or faint. Passers-by would simply take up some water and sprinkle it on Swami Maharaj's forehead, and then he would come back. And like that, this is how so much prem he had for Krishna Bhakti. He wanted people to have Krishna Bhakti. He had nobody at that time. On the streets of Delhi, he used to beg and then go back to Vrindavan in a third-class train. Sometimes, the people used to just give him money for the train ticket from Delhi to Vrindavan. And that's how he would come back to the Radha Damodar temple. And there he used to cook and offer. And then sometimes when he sat in front of that window, there's a very famous picture of Srila Prabhupada. He's about to take prasadam, his hand is stopped halfway. And there he's looking outside the window. There he's looking at Rupa Goswami's Samadhi, which is barely 5 feet away. Rupa Goswami's Samadhi, and he's begging the blessings. At night, at 2:30, 3 a.m. in the morning, one of the Gosais of the Radha Damodar temple woke up for the call of nature, and he heard some wailing, some crying in front of Rupa Goswami. Somebody was sweeping with a broom, and who was that? That was Swami Maharaj. He was crying, "Hey Rupa, hey Rupa, hey Rupa." He was begging for their mercy. So it is no wonder that all these blessings and that spiritual potency he brought when he came before. And then after 10 years in Raj, he heard that in Bombay there was this person who owned, and she was a Vaishnavi from the Pustimar. Her name was Mrs. Sumati Murarji. And she was a CEO of the Scindia Shipping Corporation. I don't know how many of you heard that name, but I'm born and brought up in Bombay. And I remember Scindia Shipping Corporation very clearly because my school bus used to pass through Kolaba area. And then we used to pass by the docks and we used to see the name of Scindia. And I still remember that in my childhood I've seen it, which after recollecting and hearing about Prabhupada's pastimes, they've got huge steps going to the main office. Srila Prabhupada went to Scindia Shipping Corporation, but nobody would let him in. The watchman, to meet somebody like a big magnate, it's like saying that I want to meet Ambani. Can you let me in? Like Ambani is one of the most respected and biggest business magnates in India, right? So he sat there for a whole month waiting on the steps. Then one day Mrs. Sumati Manaji arrived from that particular area and she saw a sadhu and she respectfully asked, "Sadhu ji, where are you from?" And he said, "I'm from Vrindavan." And she said, "Oh, you're from Vrindavan, please come." And she took him to her office. And then he said, "Yes, Sadhu Maharaj, what can I do for you, Maharaj?" So he said, "Mata, I've heard that you've got many ships going all over the world. And I've heard that your ships go to America. Can you give me a small place in your ship? My Guru Maharaj, when I was younger, had instructed me to preach the message of Mahaprabhu, to preach the message of Bhagavad to the English-speaking world. And I don't have any money. I'm just a beggar. I'm just a sannyasi. I'm a bhikshu. So perhaps you can help me. And you are a Vaishnavi. You can understand the Guru Agya. You can understand the order of the Guru." So Mrs. Sumati Maharaji said, "Swamiji, I have no problem with that, but you are an old man. And these are all these ships are cargo ships. They're not meant for cruising or for pleasure. It's very difficult journey." And Swamiji begged and said, "That's okay. Just find me a small corner. I will not disturb anybody." And like that, he kind of convinced Mrs. Sumati ji. And Mrs. Sumati ji then wrote a letter to her secretary and said that on this certain date from Calcutta, there is a ship, Jaldut, that is going to be going to US, starting from Calcutta. Make all arrangements for this Swamiji. He's a Vaishnava. Make sure there is enough vegetables, etc., and there is enough supplies of grains, etc., on this ship, so that there is no difficulty, because this Swamiji doesn't eat meat or anything. So like that, those arrangements were made, and there was Captain Pandya, who was actually the ship's captain. I recollect that when I reading in the Leela Amrit, and from hearing from other devotees, from senior disciples of Srila Prabhupada, Captain Pandya then made these arrangements, and they met in Calcutta, and Prabhupada was alone. He had one umbrella, one metal trunk full of the 3 volumes of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and maybe 2 or 3 pairs of clothes, and just 35 Indian rupees. That's all he had. There was no fanfare, no bidding goodbye. Just one person was there that Prabhupada had with him, and that's it. And then the ship, Jaldut ship, took off from the Calcutta harbor. It went to Mumbai. From Mumbai, it went to Colombo, Sri Lanka. And like that, it made its way across to the Middle East. And then once the Middle East was done, the Atlantic Ocean came. And Prabhupada writes, there's a special diary that he wrote, that he kept, that is called the Jaldut Diary. And in the Jaldut Diary, he had written the day-to-day incidences. He had even written the incident where he had cooked a feast for everybody, including the captain, his wife, and the few, what do you call, the shipmates that were there on ship. His Janmashtami was done in 1965 in September of that on the ship, and how they had celebrated Janmashtami. And then when it came to crossing the Atlantic, the ship was extremely rough. And at that night, Prabhupada incurred 2 heart attacks on that ship. And then Prabhupada writes in this Jaldut Diary that if the 3rd heart attack would come, I don't think I would have survived. And in that time, while he was sleeping in a very, very transcendental dream, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, and as if he was taken control of Jalduta, as if a boatsman has oars, the steamship Jaldut was controlled by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the sea became completely calm. And then he appears. Then after 40 days of journey, he sees the Boston harbor. Now, generally big ships, when they approach the harbor, they are usually kept outside for 1 or 2 miles. They are anchored. That is the proper system. They just don't come into the harbor directly, because certain channels are very narrow and they're not very familiar with that. So they send out a pilot boat, and then the pilot boat guides the main ship into the proper channel and into the proper berth where the ship is docked. So while waiting, the anchor was dropped, and Prabhupada could see the Boston skyline. This was on September 17, 1965. He carried within his heart the order of his spiritual master to spread the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the Western world. The following poem was written on board the Jalduta, which perfectly illustrates Srila Prabhupada's total humility and dependence on the Supreme Lord Krishna for the success of his great mission. This is an amazing poem, very heart-rendering. Please listen to it carefully. It is written in Bengali, and I will translate it. As a matter of fact, this diary, the Jaldut Diary, was found after Srila Prabhupada left his body in Vrindavan in 1977. So this was in 1965 when he was on the Jaldut ship, and he had kept it personal. He did not display it to anyone. But after he left, his disciples found his personal belongings, and he found this. The disciples found this Jaldut Diary. In that, he writes a wonderful poem. It's so heart-rendering. Please try to pay the attention to the words. He's saying, Prabhupada is saying, Bado kripa koile Krishna adhamera pati. Bado kripa koile Krishna adhamera prati. Ki lagiya anile heta karo eve gati. My dear Lord Krishna, you are so kind upon this useless soul, but I do not know why you have brought me here. Now you can do whatever you like with me. He says further, Ache kichu karya tava ei anumane, nahe keno aniban ei ugrasthane. But I guess you have some business here. Otherwise, why would you bring me to this ugrasthan, this terrible place? Rajastomo gune era shabai achana, Vasudeva Katha Ruchi nahi se prasanna. Most of the population here is covered by the material modes of ignorance and passion, tamogun and rajogun. Absorbed in material life, eat, drink and be merry. That's what the material life is in the West. They think themselves very happy and satisfied, and therefore they have no taste for the transcendental message of Vasudeva. Vasudeva Katha Ruchi. They don't have that Ruchi. They don't have that taste. I do not know how they will be able to understand it. Further he says, Tave jadi tava kripa hoy ahetuki. Tave jadi tava kripa hoy ahetuki. Sakale I sambhava hoy tumi shei kautuki. But I know your causeless mercy can make everything possible. Sakali Shambhava, because you are the most expert mystic. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, in the last verse, what is it? Yatra yatra yogeshwar. Krishna is, Sanjay says to Dhritarashtra, the last verse. Wherever there is Yogeshwar, Krishna is also known as Yogeshwar, the master of the mystics. So that way Prabhupada is remembering that you are the expert mystic, you are the master of the mystics. So if you have your ahaituki kripa, your causeless mercy, everything is possible. Ki bhave bujale tara buje shei rasho. Eta kripa koro prabhu kori nija basha. How will they understand the mellows of devotional service, of bhakti? Oh Krishna, I'm simply praying for your mercy so that I will be able to convince them about your message. Sambhava hoy tumi shei kautuki. See, so humble Srila Prabhupada is. Tumar ichhaye sab hoy maya basha. Tumar ichhaye nasha mayar parasha. All the living entities have become under the control of the illusionary energy Maya by your will. And therefore, if you like, by your will, they can also be released from the clutches of Maya. What a beautiful prayer. And then Srila Prabhupada further says, Tava ichha hoy jadi tadera uddhar. Ujiba nischay tabe katha shei tomar. I wish that you will deliver them. This is the Vaishnava's heart. He's going to a strange land with 35 rupees in his pocket. He had one contact in Mathura, one Agarwal family. And his son, Mr. Agarwal's son, Gopal Agarwal, was staying in Butler, Pennsylvania, married to Sally Agarwal. Sally was an American. But because of the contact that he had, because of the respect Gopal had for his father, he said, yeah, that's fine. Let the Swamiji come. He can stay in our place. But he had actually, because the ship was going to Boston, so Boston was the place, and from there Prabhupada will be further taking his journey to Butler, Pennsylvania. But Prabhupada is saying, Tava ichha hoy jadi tadera uddhar, buje bhi nischay tabe katha shai tumar. I wish that you delivered them. That is the Vaishnava's heart. Vaishnava jan to tene kahiye je peeda parai jane. He knows everybody is suffering. That is the real Vaishnava. And he's already praying before even seeing America in the ocean that I wish you deliver them. I wish you can make them, understand about your katha. Therefore, if you so desire that deliverance, if you so like that they get delivered, they get saved, then only will they be able to understand your message. Amazing. What can I say? Every time I read this poem, it just gives me Bhagvatera katha sei tab avatar. Hero hoy shune jadi kane bar bar. The words of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagvatera Katha, Shai Taba Avatar. Bhagavat is your avatar, your incarnation. And if a sober person, Dhira, Hoy Shune, if a sober person repeatedly receives it with submissive oral reception, then he will be unable to understand your message. And Srila Prabhupada further quotes some nice verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, from chapter 2, verses 17 to 21. He says that Srinvanta Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanam Hridiyantasta Bhadrani Vidunoti Turutsatam Nashta Prayasho Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. One who hears Srimad Bhagavatam, Srinvanta Swakatha Krishna, your own pastimes of Krishna, will bring auspiciousness, Punya Shravana, just simply by hearing and by speaking Srimad Bhagavatam, Shravana Kirtana, Hridiyantasta Bhadrani, whatever there that is inauspicious within the heart, Vidunoti Suhrut Satam, to those devotees, the heart will be cleansed by simply hearing and chanting Srimad Bhagavatam, glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam. Like this, he is glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam. He is quoting another verse, Tada Rajas Tamo Bhava, Kama Lobadhayas Chaye, Cheta Eter Anaviddham Stitam Sattva Prasiddhati. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established within the heart, the effects of the nature of the modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness and he becomes completely happy. Stitam Sattve Prasiddhati. Sattve means Satogun, and he Prasiddhati means Prakrishta Rupena Ananda iti Prasiddhati. he is extremely joyful. Evam prasanno manaso bhagavad bhakti yogatah bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. Thus established in this mode of unalloyed goodness, Shuddha Sattvam, the man whose mind has been enlivened by the contact with bhakti, pure devotional service, Lord gains positive scientific knowledge, vijnanam, of the personality of Godhead. And in this stage of liberation, he gets liberated from all material association and activities. And then he quotes one more verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Vidyate hridaye grantis shidyante sarva samshayaha chiyante chasya karmani drishta eva atmana ishvare. Thus the knot in the heart is pierced, and all misgivings cut to pieces. We have so many misgivings on anarthas. Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Matsari, etc. All this is cut into pieces. The chain of fruitive activities, karma, those actions was also terminated. So karma is also, Bhagavad Gita explains that it will bind us to this material world. So it's very, very important. Some people quote this verse, karmaneva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachan. They do not understand the complete meaning. Yes, indeed, you have the right to do your work, your activities, but do not be attached to the fruits. And at the same time, do not be attached to inaction. Ma karma phal hetur bhur. So one should not be attached to inaction. So that does not mean that bhakti means you simply sit in one corner and do nothing and sleep or just chant. Whatever you do, you offer to Krishna. That is the basics or the preliminary level of bhakti. And then at that time, Shriyanti Chasya Karmani Drishte Eva Atmana Ishvare. At that time, that person will, once his heart is completely cleansed, will be able to see. He will be self-realized, and he will be able to see you in his original form as the master. And then he continues this poem, just the last few verses. Rajastama hote tabe paibe nishthar hridaye rabhadra shate gujibe tahar. He will become liberated from the influence of the mode of ignorance and passion when they hear Bhagavad. And thus all inauspicious things accumulated in the core of the heart will disappear. It's the same thing of almost the same meaning of the verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam that I had recited earlier. He further says, Ki kore bujhabo kotha baro sei chahi khudra ami dina hino kono shakti nahi. How will I make them understand this message of Krishna consciousness? Bujhabo kotha. How will they understand? I am very unfortunate, unqualified and most fallen. Dina hina. Therefore I am seeking your benediction so that I can convince them, for I am powerless to do so on my own. Shakti nahi. Khudra ami dina hina kono shakti nahi. Atacha enacho Prabhu katha boli bare, jai tomar ichha Prabhu, koro ei bare. Thamodi adal, my dear Lord, you have brought me here now. I'm there about a mile away from Boston. I see the Boston Harbor. I see the United States of America. You have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my dear Lord, it is up to you to make me a success or failure as you like. This is the surrender. This is the pure devotee's heart speaking. Akhila Jagat Guru, Bachana Shei Amar, Alankrit Koribar, Khamata Tomar. You are known as Akhila Jagat Guru. Krishnam Vande Jagat Guru. Don't we say that? So, you are the Akhila Jagat Guru. O spiritual master of the worlds, I can simply repeat your message. What you have spoken in the Bhagavad Gita. All your different leelas in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, if you so like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding. Again, Prabhupada never ever so much success came to him, but he always said, my dear Krishna, if you so desire, if you so like. He never said, Krishna, please let this happen. Or Krishna, please do this. He always says, my dear Krishna, if you so desire, if you so like. Taba kripa hoile mor katha shuddha hobe. Suniya shabar shaka dukkha je ghuchibe. Only by your causeless mercy will my words become pure. I am sure that when this transcendental message penetrates their hearts, they will certainly feel engladdened and thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life. Aniyache jari Prabhu, amar nachite, nachao nachao, Prabhu nachao shemate, kastera putli jatha nachao shemate. Oh Lord, I'm just like a puppet in your hands. I'm just like a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance. Nachao, nachao, make me dance. Oh Lord, make me dance. And then lastly, in that Jaldut poem, he says, Bhakti nai beda, naam khoob daro, Bhaktivedanta naam sarthak koro. He says, I have no devotion, I have no bhakti. Bhakti nai beda, nor do I have any knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. I have been designated as Bhaktivedanta by others. They've given me the title of Bhaktivedanta. So if you like, oh Krishna, if you so desire, you can fulfill the purport, the real purport of my name Bhaktivedanta. And then he writes in the bottom, signed by the most unfortunate, insignificant beggar, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, on board the ship Jaldut, Commonwealth Pier, Boston, Massachusetts, United States of America, dated 18 September 1965. This is Srila Prabhupada. In 1966, he came, 65, didn't know where to go. He writes that when I got off the Boston Harbor, I did not know how to go, where to go, left or right. Somehow or the other, after asking people, he went to the bus station. He ended up to go to Gopal Agarwal's place in Butler, Pennsylvania, a very small town. There he lived with his wife and Gopal and the newly born son. And it is said that Prabhupada was so, he had a big seva to do. In the same house, meat was being eaten because Sally Agarwal, being an American, she used to eat meat. Prabhupada used to share one small compartment in the refrigerator for his vegetables and everything. Prabhupada used to cook by himself. And like that, he had to tolerate so many things. Gopal Agarwal's son's first steps he took in Prabhupada's, when both of them were at work, Prabhupada was at home and Gopal Agarwal's son started walking. And the first steps, Prabhupada, there's a nice picture of Prabhupada with big eyes holding Gopal Agarwal's son, and the first steps were taken in Srila Prabhupada's presence. Like this, in 1966, Prabhupada then went to New York from there. In New York, he stood under the Tompkins Square Park and he had only one manjira or kartar and he just started chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. He had so much faith in the holy name. Because the holy name is Krishna, Nam Namino Abhinna. When we chant the holy name, we are actually associating with Krishna, but because of our anarthas, we do not realize that. Sometimes due to our bad behavior, we do not realize who really loves us or who does not love us in our practical experiences. But this Krishna is sakshat present in the word Hara and in Krishna. Hara means all the internal energies of Krishna. Nam Makari Bahuda Nija Sarva Sakti Tatra Arpita Niyamita Smarnena Kalaha Eta Drishat Tava Kripa Bhagwan Mamapi Durdaiva Midrisham Ihajani Na Anuragaha. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that all my internal potencies are invested, my energies, internal energies, Antaranga Shaktis, they're all invested in the holy names. So my Nija Sarva Shakti means Shyam Sundar's Nija Shakti, Nandanandan's Nija Shakti, Yashodananda's Nija Shakti is Radharani, the Gopis, the Gopas, Braj Mandal. That is why we first offer our obeisances to Guru and then to Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna. Hare means all those personalities who are the internal potencies of Sri Krishna. There are so many wonderful meanings of just the word Hare. It will probably take me several sessions if I go much deeper into the Mahamantra. No wonder it is called Mahamantra. Yes, one can take the name of Govinda. One can take the name Mere to Girdhar Gopal Dusra na koi, like Mirabai used to. But for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, first comes the Vrajvasis. There is no exclusivity claim on Krishna. Then that is not complete, because Krishna, for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they are very Preshta. Krishna puts his devotees first, his Vraj first, his Radharani first. And that is why the word Hara denotes that. Very, very deep meanings are there of the word Hara or Hare. Hara is when you call, when you are calling, it's in Sanskrit, like somebody's name is Sita, you address it as Hey Site. So Hara means all these energies, internal potencies of Krishna, the Vraj Mandal, including Radharani. And when you address them, it is Hare. So it is basically calling out to them. Please, I'm begging you to give me pure bhakti. That is the essence of the Mahamantra. Just like when you call out somebody, if I'm sitting here and if I call up my wife's name, she will immediately look at me and say, yes, what can I get you? Hey, Baba, can you just get me a glass of water? Or can you get me that pen? Etc. So when we call out a person's name, we are attracting attention for a reason. And the main reason that we are chanting the Mahamantra is so that we can be engaged in pure bhakti. All of the names are good, but Mahamantra is complete. No need to take other names individually, because Mahamantra even includes, for your kind information, if that is one's consciousness of Devi Devatas, like even Mahadev. Mahadev is one of the internal energies of Krishna. So you are even addressing all the different Devi, seeking the blessings of all the demigods, all the Devi Devatas, all the Vrajvasis. And the topmost of topmost, who is the Raseshwari, whom even Krishna himself is crazy about, is Sri Radha. She is included as the head of the internal potencies of Krishna. Therefore, even Radharani is included. Most people don't understand the deeper meaning of Mahamantra. The day we start really realizing it, so when a pure devotee chants, he attracted all those souls that were playing in the park, in Tompkins Square Park. Those hippies, some were doing drugs, some were playing their guitars, some were playing their bongos. So they were arm in arm with their girlfriends, laughing and cracking jokes. And when they heard this Mahamantra, they gathered around the Swami. They called him the Swami. And whatever musical instruments they had, they started tuning into the Mahamantra. And they made a circle around Swamiji. And Swamiji chanted even in more ecstasy and danced in ecstasy, because he was with Krishna. And he made the presence of Krishna's sound vibration felt to all those jivas that were around. And slowly, slowly, they got intrigued, these hippies. They started striking a conversation. Swamiji, are you from India? One Professor Howard Wheeler of the Ohio State University, professor in English, he said, yes, Prabhupada. And then there was this Keith, a son of a pastor. Like that, they had gone to India to seek a guru, but they came back. They had gone to Rishikesh and they came back, not finding a guru. And the guru came to them. When one is very sincere in the seeking of God, then God makes the proper arrangements, because he's seated as Paramatma within the heart. Where are you staying? And he says, this is not much, small. Then somebody told him that, okay, you can stay in my office. And he rented not even rented, he was staying in an office building without no shower, nothing. He used to take the wash basin water and just cleanse himself. And he used to continuously, somebody had donated a typewriter and he continued his translation of Srimad Bhagavatam in a very small office space with a glass door. And one day, one drug addict came, broke the glass door and stole Prabhupada's typewriter for a few pennies, for a couple dollars to buy some drugs. This is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, my dear devotees, my dear friends. He never gave up. He constantly was in the service of Krishna. Then some of the hippies, they saw he was coming regularly chanting. They were all very happy chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. They gave him a small place in a small studio on 26 2nd Avenue in New York. And there was a small storefront that was empty, closed. And it had a sign on top, matchless gifts. There was a curio shop or a gift shop that had gone out of business. So then they, out of their love, because they could feel the love of Swamiji didn't ask them anything, no money or nothing. They knew that this was a genuine person. So Paramatma inspired them for their own good to serve a pure devotee. And they said, Swamiji, we can rent this place and you can do your kirtans here and you can speak about the Indian philosophy. And they were going to remove the name, and Swamiji said, no. Leave that name there. Leave the name there, matchless gifts, because Krishna consciousness is a matchless gift. So even today, if you go to 26 2nd Avenue, ISKCON finally managed to acquire that storefront, and still that name, matchless gifts, is still there. Swamiji used to perform kirtans on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, and speak from the Bhagavad Gita. And many hippies used to come to listen to him. And especially they were ecstatic in the kirtans. Some of them drunk, some of them high, all of these things. But slowly, as Swamiji started speaking the philosophy, some of them gave up their bad habits. And Swamiji personally in the back apartment used to cook for them. He used to offer to Krishna simple stuff. He didn't have that much money. And whatever little donations these hippies used to give him, they gave one known as Bruce. He used to bring his whole salary to pay the rent of the apartment and the storefront. That was the love that they had shown for Swamiji. And Swamiji used to cook for them and then used to offer Krishna bhoga, and the prasadam used to serve them. And it was in a very bad area, all hippies. Still outside you could see drunkards and drug addicts, and they used to come. They had heard about some mantra that some Swami had come from India that can keep them high forever. And Prabhupada heard that sentence and said, yes, we can keep you high forever. You do not need to use any drugs or chemicals by simply chanting the holy names. So more and more the word spread around, and they started coming, and Prabhupada used to do kirtans and bhajan. Prabhupada cooked with his own hands, and some of these hippies who were hungry, and still some of them did drugs, and they used to eat 20 chapatis. Prabhupada used to make those chapatis, hundreds of chapatis, and then with his own hands feed them, and he would say, my dear boy, my dear girl, you're not eating well, take some more. That is a Vaishnava, with love. And then some of them would eat to their content and go to sleep right there at 26 2nd Avenue, snore. And some of them would leave with their girlfriends. And it was Swamiji who was left with cleaning all the pots and pans. How many gurus have done that? This is Krishna Presthaya Bhutale. So much love for Krishna and so much love for the Guru's words. Simply wanting to give pure bhakti. And like that, the ISKCON movement grew. 1966, after about a year, in 66, suggested that we should form an institution. So somebody suggested and then the word had spread out. Lawyers used to come, and all kinds of people used to come to hear Swamiji. And they said that you should name the society where everybody will like it. So Prabhupada said, yes, the name will be International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So a lot of them said, okay, Swamiji. But then one lawyer suggested, why don't you make it International Name for God Consciousness? International Society for God Consciousness. It will attract more people. So Swamiji says, no, Krishna is God, God is Krishna. So therefore it will be International Society for Krishna Consciousness. That's how ISKCON was established. In 1967, he completed translation and commentary of Bhagavad Gita as it is. In 1968, Bhagavad Gita as it is was published by the Macmillan Company, and it was printed by the Dai Nippon Press in Japan. In 1972, Srila Prabhupada established the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, and so many different temples all over the world were constructed. In 1975, Srila Prabhupada completed and published the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita in 17 volumes. And then in 1976, Srila Prabhupada established the Bhaktivedanta Institute of Scientific Preaching. And we have some very big scientists in our movement. Some quantum physics. Rasraj Prabhu is in Bombay. And also there is, I forget the other name, in Berkeley, San Francisco, they have the Bhaktivedanta Institute of Scientific Preaching. And then there was Dr. Thodam Singh. He already left his body. There's one of his disciples, Sarup Damodar Goswami Maharaj. All great personalities. Prabhupada encouraged them, you must finish your PhD. Sarup Damodar Goswami, he wanted to leave. He says, I want to join full time. No, finish your PhD. You are a scientist. And you will explain everything from the basis of Srimad Bhagavatam is full of science. The Vedic cosmology is science. So like this, Srila Prabhupada established 108 temples, and then he left his body as per the prediction. In 1977, November, Srila Prabhupada left in Kartik month, the most auspicious month. November 14, 1977, Srila Prabhupada left this world. Actually, Srila Prabhupada in 1977 had plans in May or June to go to UK. Almost gone to Delhi, and he says, no, turn back, I don't want to go. I want to go to Vrindavan again. Pardon me if I'm a little bit off with the dates, but right around that time. And then Prabhupada displayed some ecstatic symptoms and even some leelas of falling sick. And then 1 month he did not eat or drink anything. Barely devotees gathered from all over the world in Vrindavan, in Krishna Balram Mandir, in his own house. Srila Prabhupada at 7:30 p.m. that evening, November 14, 1977. He was still speaking Srimad Bhagavatam. He was so weak that devotees were needed to turn him around from left to right because he had not taken any food or water. But his consciousness was completely absorbed at the lotus feet of Krishna. He was speaking verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, and his disciples were still holding the dictaphone to his mouth. And he was telling them, please remain Krishna conscious. He was giving the final lesson on how to die. And by speaking the words of Krishna, he left his body in the month of Kartik, in Sri Vrindavan Dham, in the Krishna Balram Mandir, at the lotus feet of Lalita, Vishakha, and Radha Shyam Sundar. This, my dear friends, my devotees, is a very brief description of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami's life history. Today being his appearance day, it's an offering by remembering all those acts of compassion. So thank you very much for patiently listening. It's been a very long session, I understand. And for those who have listened to it, I'm sure you will derive a lot of spiritual benefit. I personally pray to the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada for the well-being of all of you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma Bando Mui Saudhan Mate Jahar Prasade Bhai E Bhava Toriya Jai Krishna Prapti Jaha Hoite Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Te Koriya Aika Aur Na Kori Ho Mane Asha Shri Guru Charane Rati Eishe Uttama Goti Je Prasade Pure Sarva Asha चक्षुदान दिलो जई जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु शई दिव्य ज्ञान रिगे प्रकाशितो प्रेम भक्ति जहां होते अविद्या ने विनाश होते वेदे गाय जहार चरितो श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनार बंधु लोकनाथ लोकेरा जीवन श्री प्रभुपाद आमार जीवन श्री प्रभुपाद आमार जीवन हा प्रभु कोरो दया देहो मोरे पद छाया एबे यश घुषुक त्रिभुवन एबे यश घुषुक त्रिभुवन एबे यश घुषुक त्रिभुवन जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद जय श्रीला प्रभुपाद Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. His Divine Grace, Abhay Charnaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय। जमुना माई की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। समावेद गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्टो विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिवजकाचार्य अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। श्रीला प्रभुपाद आविर्भाव तिथि की जय। श्रीला प्रभुपाद अपीयरेंस डे की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल।